gonna try to make sure this is my best review so far without stumbling too much. So welcome to my reading corner. I am here to do a review on The Enchanted by Renee Dunfeld. Now, when I first heard about this book, I didn't think I would be interested in it because, reading the first time I read the description on the back flap, on the front flap, I didn't think, with the setting and everything, I didn't think I would be interested. But I was actually pleasantly surprised when I did read it. I'm glad I bought it, although I think I'm gonna donate it because I can't afford to keep every single book that I really enjoy. I don't have the space, and I don't know if I'll ever buy on their bookshelf for myself. I mean, I only have this one that's always in the venue, and then I have one over there that is three rows of shelves. So thanks to it actually used to be a piece of furniture of my parents, but then when we moved, they decided to give all their furniture to me because they were going to buy new furniture, except for the bed. So I need to, sometime I need to go through my books and donate books, and right now I'm having a difficult time looking at my shelves. But anyway, this book is, like I said, it's set in a prison, particularly on death row. You have 3 significant inmates, but there are more inmates, of course, but there are 3 significant inmates in this story. You have Striker, who's kind of the typical prisoner, where he's, angry and provokes the everybody, and he's one of those ones that he's not exactly the most important. He's not an important character. It's just he's one that's mentioned in the book, so that's why I'm talking about him. And then you have the mute inmate who observes everything, and he always is watching everything, and we don't find out his name until the very end, and we don't even know what he did. We get there's little hints of what he might have done, and at least was really described as something that was really bad, that he's really dangerous. But that's about it. And we learned that he has a passion. He loves books. He loves reading, and he will stay out of trouble by going to the prison library and read the books. And every so often, the guards will drop off, or the warden allows the guards to give him books whenever they get books donated to the prison. But he also sees the magic in this prison. That's hence the title, The Enchanted. He sees and hears things that others don't. So there's a little bit of a magical realism in this story, though I do label it literary fiction. I mean, I should actually look at Goodreads and see what Goodreads refers to this book as. But, and then you have York, who wants to die. He's resigned to the fact that he's going to be executed soon. And a lady who's only known as the lady in the book, we don't ever hear her name, is hired to take on York's case so that maybe she can prevent him from getting executed, and that maybe he'll either get out on parole or end up as a lifer where he won't die, but he'll be still stuck in the prison. So she begins to investigate his life and find out what led to his imprisonment. And as she's doing so, she begins to realize that she and York have similar things in common. They have a similar past. They both had mothers that were, and this is what the book is actually in the book, so I'm not coming up with this word on my own. It's actually referred to in the book, that both their mothers are diagnosed as mentally retarded. They don't understand a lot of things, and the only thing that they do in both cases, the only thing the mothers understand is they can seduce men and allow them to sexually use them. And at one point, both characters experience. I mean, it doesn't actually say that loud, but I think it doesn't spell it out. But I do think both characters experienced being raped by their mother's boyfriends, one of their lovers. So she is kind of determined because of that intimate connection she has with this guy. She wants to save him. It's not just another case for her. It's not just another person being condemned to death. And then you also have a fallen priest who walked away from the priesthood when he realized that the priesthood wasn't meant for him. Like, he realizes this is not what he wants for his life, and he ends up actually having a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old female prostitute. But eventually he breaks it off with her when they start falling for each other, and decides to walk away because he can never, bring her to his work, introduce her to his friends and what family he has, because she's a prostitute. And he decides that he needs to resign from the priesthood. So he walks away, and then he ends up working with the lady to help these prisoners and offering them solace and prayer. And he and this lady start feeling connected to each other and start falling for each other, and they form this understanding and this compassion for each other and their past, their very dark past. And then the last character we have is the warden, the kind warden. He is the one who runs at this prison, and he's actually he's understanding of these prisoners. Not that he's not that he is easy on them, but he's not like cruel to them. Like, you see it all the time in movies where you have the warden who treats these people like they don't matter, like they're scum, which in a way which they are, but I mean, there's no human compassion. But in this case, he does show compassion. But then you also find out that he is going through a tragedy in his life, because his wife is dying of cancer, and the prison is his only comfort, his only solace, the only place he can go to escape that torture of watching his wife slowly die. And his wife also doesn't want him around to see her die. She wants to die alone. So she's okay with him going to work and hiding out at the prison. So those are our main characters, and so we spend most of the time with the lady and the mute inmate, and how he's watching this whole thing and observing it, and because he's mute and he just can't talk, he wants to help the lady, but he can't talk to her. He can't say anything to her. And he even wants her and the priest to find each other and find the love between the two of them that he's seen happening with them. And he also has this understanding of York, and like I said, he is also a person who sees the magic and the enchantment in the prison, like these golden horses that come every so often. And he also sees that run through the prison. And he also hears these creatures in the walls that are hammering away all the time. So, although I do think I have a theory of what the horses are. Because, of course, with magical realism, the magic aspect is just a way for the main character to hide and deny the real thing that's happening, like a way to disguise what they're really seeing, or to explain what they're seeing. Like in the book, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, that's kind of what happens. It's also magical realism, and we're told from the perspective of this man is remembering his childhood, so all the major events are seen through a child. But like I said, I feel like I should let my library know that that's not a kid's book. It's not kid friendly, and it's in the kids section. It could be in the YA section of the story, because I think teenagers could read it and understand, because at 16, a lot of times teenagers are having sex. and there's a part where the little boy witnesses his father and his secretary having sex, but he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know what's going on. So he, you know. Although, funnily enough, I don't remember that actual thing being, like, he compares it to something supernatural or anything. But anyway, this is I enjoyed this book. It was really good, and the writing is a bit flowery, if you don't like that kind of writing. But it's not that flowery. It's not like you don't understand it. It's not like flowery to the point of where there's so many metaphors that you don't know it's like the metaphors are detracting from the story. It's not like that. But it is very beautiful writing, and like I said, it's very contrasting to, in not just the writing, but the whole Enchanted part is very contrasting to the setting of the story, because it's set in a prison on death row, and these guys, what death row, you see this all the time in movies and stuff, where being in prison, and I believe it's true, that it can harden you and make you cold and cruel, or like emotionally numb, like almost a sociopath, I think, or is that a psychopath? I can never remember the difference between which one is which, sociopath and psychopath, but where you just don't feel anything and you don't react and you're just resigned to your situation. And there is a character in the story that I feel like is kind of like that, where they become emotionally numb because of what they experience while they're in the prison, because they're just a kid. Like, I think this character is like 18, and he just goes through so much when he's in the prison. And he's still just a kid, even though legally he's an adult if he is 18. I don't remember if he's 18. I want to say that he is, but it's the point where he becomes just a ghost walking around the prison. And people feel sorry for him because of what he experiences while he's there. And okay, I also like I said, I feel like you can even though we're dealing with prisoners here, these people who commit these horrible, disgusting crimes, and it probably helps that you don't know the exact details of the crimes they committed. You just get hints of them. You actually feel sorry for at least the mute inmate in York. You actually, or at least you understand them, and you feel pity for these characters. And like I said, I think what helps with that is because you don't know exactly what they did. Like if Renee Denfeld decided to describe exactly what these guys did instead of just hinting at the bad things that they did that got them in the prison, then I don't think you would feel as sympathetic. It would, like, knowing what they did and seeing it described and picturing it in your mind would be, I think it would be too hard to get past that. But you don't know the details of what they did. You just know that they did these horrible crimes, and there's a reason they're in prison. And I think it also asks the question, like with the warden character, you ask the question of how is it that dying of something like cancer is considered natural, while people don't like the idea of capital punishment, even if the people that are experiencing that deserve to be punished did some horrible things that they deserve to die. But yet, it's too crude for us. It's too, distasteful. And it's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And we shouldn't kill these people. Yeah, they may deserve it, but killing is wrong. It's immoral and all that. Yet, again, dying of something like cancer is considered natural and normal. And I think that's a question that a lot of people who are in this kind of situation, where they're grieving the loss of their lover, their /spouse, or their parent, or their sibling, or like a relative that they live with, that they're close with, or like a friend or something. People ask like that. I was watching Buffy recently because my friend was nice enough to get me all 7 seasons, an used copy of all 7 seasons on DVD. And if you've seen the show, there's some deaths that happen in the show. Like there's someone's girlfriend gets killed, and I'm just saying that in case you haven't seen the show. I mean, if you have, then you know who I'm talking about. And she meant something to everybody, not just the main character being her girlfriend, but she was special to all the characters. And then she dies getting shot, and the characters, you have Buffy, who is the main character. She kills monsters for a living, and they're like, the guy that shot the girlfriend, they're all thinking that he deserves to die, he deserves to suffer, to be murdered, and she's like, no, we can't take the law into our own hands, we can't be like this because we're no better than him. But I think when you're grieving, it's like that is not the point. The point is, this person murdered someone that you care about, that you loved. Why do they deserve to live? Why should I not punish them? It's a very difficult question, because it's like, on the one hand, should you be allowed to play God? Is it like that? And is it okay to pass judgment on this person? They're still human, but then again, they're a murderer. They killed someone that you love. That makes them less than human in your mind. And is it stooping to their level to, punish them? Or does that even matter? And I think that now, of course, the situation in this book is a little different, because we're not looking from the perspective of the family members and friends of the victims that these criminals might have killed. Because I think that's essentially what happened. I think both of these guys probably committed murder or something. I don't know. Don't take my word for it. I'm just going by what I'm hinted at. Seems to be hinted at. So it's, we do at one point do kind of get a little bit of the perspective of the victims' friends and family, but it's very little of their perspective. You just see them grieving, and the criminals are interested in a way watching these people watch them. And now with York's victim, there's actually people that aren't friends or family of his victims, but of course they are disgusted by this murderer and think he should be killed. So we also get the other question with York particularly, is it better to die or to be executed for your crimes, or to be considered, or to be set free with that still in your reputation, the idea that you did this? And I think York says, I would rather be dead. I would rather be executed for my crimes than go about my life, even if I'm free. No, even with this reputation of being a murderer, being a killer, or being a criminal, whatever he did. Like I said, I don't know if it was murder. It gives the impression that he did murder someone, or rape a woman or something, or rape someone. I don't know. But that's the impression I got, that is what he did. Like I said, I feel like it's definitely good that we don't get the details, that we don't focus on the details of what these two criminals did. We don't even know what Stryker did. It just focuses on more on their experience in the prison and how there is someone who wants to redeem them. And we also have the subplot of the relationship between the priest and the lady, and they are starting to fall in love. And they have this understanding between the two of them, and they don't judge each other. And like I said, the mute inmate, as Hope, wants them together. He's their best supporter. He's their biggest shipper, you could say. But of course he can't, because he has become mute. Now, I think it's because he chooses, because they do mention how he did talk at least once, but he has chosen to become mute. And it's probably like a defense mechanism, and maybe he just became, and now he doesn't remember how to talk. I don't know. But the book did imply that he talked at least before he ended up in prison. I also my only criticism is the book does jump around from characters. And at times, well, I guess the other thing is there's two criticisms. It does jump around with characters' perspectives, and sometimes I feel like that's confusing. Until you get into that perspective, and some of these are actually really short. Like some of the pages, which is why I still say it's not that long of a read, and it's only like, as far as the story goes, it only goes up to, I think, page 233 as far as the story goes. That's how many pages of story it has, and then there's some extra pages, of course, which I don't get why. That would be one of my pet peeves, is authors who put, like, publishers who put extra pages at the end of the book. I mean, I understand the acknowledgement page and the about the author page, and if the author chooses to put some extra things in there, but there's always extra blank pages, and I don't get that. Maybe they have to do that, but I don't get why publishers do that. It just bugs me. And I think I was reminded of this actually because Jesse the reader talked about that too, and then it was like, yeah, I kind of don't like that either, or I don't get that either. But anyway, so it's not that long of a book, but it can be a little slow in the beginning. And I also, what was the other thing I said? Oh, it jumps around from character to character. And I feel like I'm fine with multi-perspective stories. I'm cool with that. I'm a big fan of that in stories, especially when you have an ensemble cast of characters, because then, you want to know what the other characters are thinking. Like, there's young adult books, which the two I'm thinking about in particularly, yeah, I kind of do understand why the author put it in first-person perspective. And yes, I know neither one of them is told I don't think either one of them is told. I know it's not told in first-person perspective, it's not like a story where it's like, I went through this, I experienced this, I feel this way, kind of. It's still like, it's third-person narrative. Narrative. I know it's not first-person narrative, but we only get, in both series I'm thinking of, we only get the protagonist's point of view. We don't go, even though it's not told in I statements, we still only get that one person's point of view in the story. And those stories, I almost wish that we did get some of the other characters' points of view in those particular series. Because some of those characters, I would love to hear their points of the story, which I guess that's why the author, like, at least with one of the authors has chosen to write multiple series in the same universe. While the other one has just decided that she's going beyond that universe, but she has written other stories in that world. But yeah, sometimes I would like to have seen from the other characters' perspectives in those particular series, because but this one is a multi-perspective story, but unfortunately, like I said, it jumps around a lot, and it's kind of confusing until you get into that section of the story where you figure out whose perspective it's in. Like, at first, the first couple sentences, I'm like, okay, we're still in the previous character's point of view, but then I realized, okay, no, we're not. And there's sometimes where you can easily tell with some situation, depending on where the characters are in the story, then it's kind of obvious whose point of view we're in. But at times, I think it can be a little confusing. And there's also no chapters. I mean, there are section breaks, but there's no actual chapter 1, chapter 2 kind of thing. It's section breaks. Like, let's see if I can show you. like, every time we're in a new section, we get this little heading, which is what's on the cover of the book, but we don't get it labeled chapter. This is not labeled chapter 1. So, or there's not a chapter 2 or anything, but we still get perspectives. And, oh, and by the way, it's really cool because this book is actually from the used bookstore. My used bookstore that's, the closest bookstore to me, that, like, closest as in I can walk there. It actually has, like, a little bit of writing in it. Like, someone wrote with pencil in it. And I decided, the last few pages, I decided to add some things because I didn't have a pencil that I was able to grab while I was reading this book. And I'm someone who doesn't really like to, that's why I don't take notes when I'm reading unless I'm doing it for class. And even then I don't really, because then it's like, you have to stop and escape the lead, get out of the story for a little bit. I guess because I'm not one of those people who read straight through, like, I don't read all day. I will take breaks, or only read for, like, 30 minutes to an hour or so and then stop. I don't know how long I read, because I go by, like, I read a few chapters, or several pages. But see, like, this person underlined some of these sentences, I don't know if you can see. And she also, and some of them, I think that's a woman. Also, there are some that have, like, little, like, she wrote something there, words, and she underlined stuff. Like, she underlined, life is a story, everything that has happened and will happen to me is all part of a story of this enchanted place. All the dreams and visions and understandings that come to me in my dungeon cell. And then she underlined the last sentence, this place is too enchanted to let the story go untold. So I also wrote a few things, like a few comments here and there towards the end of the book. But mostly I was reading this book here, and I also don't like writing in bed. I want to write on like a hard surface, like a desk. So those are my thoughts on my review on this book, on The Enchanted. It's a very good book. It's not that long. Oh, I also like that it has deckled edges. I'm one of those people who does like the deckled edges. I know not everybody does, but I personally do. I like because it looks like an old-fashioned book, and I like the idea of old books. That's why, like, books that look old. That's why I actually, I like buying those fancy Barnes & Noble hardbacks that look like old books on the outside with the cover and stuff. They look very old-fashioned. And the pages are kind of yellowed a little bit. I think they did that. I don't know if they did that. I guess they did that on purpose because it's not like they aren't really old. They're new books. But anyway, like I said, those are my thoughts on The Enchanted. If you are interested from going by what I said, it is a good book. It's not that long of a read, but it is a little slow in the beginning. So if you like this review, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe. If you have not, I would really appreciate it. And as always, I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye.